Welcome to the final episode of the Sunday Spread. And for the first time, someone's actually going to be really, really happy at the final episode of the Sunday Spread because the Philadelphia Eagles get a dub in the Super Bowl. Devin Caney predicted it. Barrett Brooks predicted it. Myself and Kenny were haters. But we can't hate any longer. Also, actually, I can hate all I want because I'm a hater. I was born with hate.
No, you can't.
But there's not much I have left in the tank when it comes to this hate train. We're all over the place because, as you can imagine, it's Parade City. We film in Philadelphia, so it's Parade City. It is post-Eagles celebration. It is Super Bowl preparation. It is post-interview, season interviews, locker clean out, but not really locker clean out because you can still smell the liquor on people's breasts. It's all of that going on this week. So right now, it's me and Devin Caney kicking it. Later on, Barrett Brooks is going to join us because, again, our schedules are all over the place because we're all covering different things that have to do with the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl, and the parade. But still, we're going to have a full 2 hours for you. It'd be me and Devin, then me and Barrett and Kenny. Well, me and Kenny had to hear Devin and Barrett throughout the entire 2 hours yell at us. So first things first, Dev, you're the good luck charm.
Well,
you are the good luck charm. If y'all don't know, middle of the season, she became a sideline reporter. And no L's. She takes 0 L's. Her TD parlays take 0 L's. The Eagles take 0 L's when she's on the sideline. So first off, your perspective, right? As a sideline reporter, getting in there mid-season, going through this season, winning the Super Bowl, give us your perspective of the entire journey real quick before you actually get into your perspective being on the sideline for the Super Bowl.
Well, I'll do that, but 1 second, Sean. I just have to I have to throw something on really quick because
buddy,
it's a little cold in here, so I just need a layer of.
This is so unnecessary. Yeah. I guess I deserve this.
It's like a little
I deserve
chilly.
this. It's a T-shirt. You're not putting on a long sleeve shirt. It's not like you're putting on a sweatshirt.
I have a hoodie, but I figured that would be a harder.
Of course.
Anyways, all right. Well, now that we're fully, what's that say? Champions, Super Bowl, Super Bowl champions.
Yeah,
is what it says.
I can't say nothing. I gotta shut up for an entire show. Our final show, I gotta shut up.
Look, I told you I wasn't gloating all postseason because I'm superstitious. Just give me this one moment. This is for Sean rocking a Mets hat all the way back in the early NFL season, but end of baseball season when the Mets dashed the Phillies' hopes and dreams. Yeah. Look, karma goes around, comes around, Sean. I had to do it. But, I mean, just what an incredible ride it's been for me, but for the city of Philadelphia, for Eagles fans, for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that win over the Chiefs, I mean, what can you say? Like, it was a spanking. Like, it was yes, maybe the final score at the end of the day says 40-22. The real score of that game was 40-6. Like, it was garbage time points. They completely shut down the great Patrick Mahomes, which you guys weren't the only ones. It felt like a lot of people, a lot of analysts, a lot of fans throughout the country, throughout the world were, you can't count out Patrick Mahomes. He always finds a way. Andy Reid always finds a way. Travis Kelce, that Chiefs offense, he can't stop them. And I said, no. This Eagles defense has held down the most powerful and potent offenses in the league week after week. This is no problem for them. I did not see a way that Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense could put up a ton of points on this Eagles defense, and I was very accurate on that. But it just, a Super Bowl victory and like the best possible kind of victory you can have because it was so convincing.
Being there, when did you feel or when did you know it's over?
Probably the Cooper DeJean pick six. When was that? Was that end of second quarter or third quarter?
Yeah, made it 17 zip.
Yeah. Once they were up 17-0, I know a lot of people didn't feel that it was truly over. And I think maybe part of me realized that, going into halftime, like it's Patrick Mahomes, and we know what he did to the Eagles 2 years ago, where the Eagles were up 10 at half, and he came back out and he brought the Chiefs back to win. That wasn't the case this time around. But yeah, once Cooper DeJean picked him off and ran it in for a touchdown, I was like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. And then they just kept piling on and then coming out of the second half and Devontae Smith catches that incredible deep ball for the touchdown to go up. I think, what was that, like 24-0 or 30? It might have. It's hard to keep track. It's hard to keep track. There's 34. So many. 34-0. Yeah. That's when Chiefs fans started to leave the building.
Yeah, I mean, again, and I was going either way, right? Like on Thursday on the show, I said the Chiefs would win by 2. I'm be honest with you. On Friday, I was much like the national analyst. I forget who it was. I switched to the Eagles on Friday. And then on Saturday, I switched back to the Chiefs. I thought it was going to be that close. And I had a radio show the night before, and I said, y'all are crazy, Eagles fans. Because, whenever you're a fan of something, you go over the top. Y'all are crazy if you think you're going to blow out the Chiefs, right? Patrick Mahomes is going to have an argument for the GOAT when he retires. Andy Reid's going to have the argument for the GOAT coach when he retires. Steve Spagnuolo is probably already the GOAT coordinator. I said, y'all are out your mind. Out your freaking mind if you think this thing is going to be a blowout. A quarter and a half in, I said, oh, snap. I'm going to have to give apologies out to a lot of people. I don't think anybody who was objective thought it was going to be a blowout. Like, I think a lot of people were confident that the Eagles were going to win or were going to win.
Yeah.
But that it was going to be done in that fashion where the Chiefs could not do anything, nada. And the biggest surprise to me in that game was your front four was able to do without anything else.
Yeah.
Like, I know the Eagles' front four is good. But to be able to get consistent pressure against Patrick Mahomes and that team without having to blitz, without having to change anything, devastated that team. Now, I know
zero blitzes.
And I know Jalen Hurts got the MVP, and rightfully so. Because the quarterbacks get all the awards, right? Like, Saquon Barkley should have been the MVP of the season. Like, I thought Chris Jones should have won this Super Bowl MVP last year. The D-line was the reason y'all won that game because they could not – Pat could not do a – Josh Sweat.
Yeah.
Kudos. It's not like y'all have, like, all-pro rush edgers.
No, not like we did 2 years ago who didn't get any pressure on Mahomes because it makes you think.
Again, so it was the manner it was done was so shocking because I look at all the Super Bowl history and go, has Tom Brady ever lost a Super Bowl? I know he's lost a playoff game. A Super Bowl like that? Has Bill Belichick ever lost a Super Bowl like that? Has Joe Montana ever lost a Super Bowl? No, like you think of the greats.
Anyone, like, yes, the greats, but I don't think anyone has lost a Super Bowl because, like, being on the broadcast, I hear, obviously Merrill Reese and Mike Quick in my ear up in the booth. And as the Eagles kept pulling away, kept scoring more, and the Chiefs kept continuing to fail to score, Merrill was kind of keeping track of, like, okay, so I think a team has come back from being down like 24. I think a team has come back from being down 17, and then they finally passed that threshold. I think it was, well, maybe the Chiefs in garbage time points narrowed it a little bit, but it was like one of the most historic blowouts. The Eagles put up, I believe, the most points throughout the entire postseason of any team in the NFL.
I can see that. That 55 put you over the top. Like, the only ones that I could think of in my history of watching, and I'm probably forgetting some things, Peyton Manning was blown out, I believe, one time. But the Seahawks demolished the Broncos. That was like 43-8, something like that. And then when I was young, the Niners beat the Chargers. I forget the score. It was like 55-10. Like, those were the only two that I remember were that ridiculous of blowouts where from the first quarter on, you're like, this thing is over, right? This thing is probably a boring Super Bowl if you're not an Eagles fan, right? So it's just, again, unbelievable blowouts. Again, we talk about Jalen Hurts, criticism of Jalen Hurts. What is Jalen Hurts, et cetera, et cetera. For you, what does this do for Jalen?
I mean, hopefully a whole lot. I'm sure there are still doubters. Like, I think no matter whatever team you are, whoever you are, when you win a Super Bowl, there's always going to be like people coming out of the woodwork. I just think it's funny, other NFL players like Dak Prescott coming out and saying like, oh, we're super close to the Eagles.
Shut up, Dak.
I think it was Amon-Ra St. Brown saying like, oh, I hope we play the Eagles next year to show them like what a real team. Okay, well, you guys you lost. So yeah, like you lost to the team that the Eagles put up 55 points on. So like that's fine. So I'm sure he'll still have, doubters, but I just love this for him because he said it himself multiple times. Like we all know, the infamous phone background that he continues to have of him, walking through the Chiefs confetti in Super Bowl 57 after they lost it, despite Jalen Hurts playing the best game of his life. And then the argument is throughout this season, throughout this postseason, well, he can't throw, he can only run. Without Saquon, they're nothing. Jalen Hurts is just a passenger on the train, and everyone else is carrying him. Well, yeah, he might have talented guys around him, but Jalen Hurts played pretty dang well in that Super Bowl and in that NFC Championship game. I mean, he was throwing accurately. He was making good decisions. He had like one bad pick that I think he threw off of his wrong leg or something, but it didn't seem to matter because the Chiefs didn't do anything with it. They didn't do much at all on offense or defense for what it's worth. So I just love that he and Sirianni, who I know are the two who get the most criticism around, the league, around the country. I'm really, really proud of them for proving everyone wrong and winning just so convincingly. It's not a win that you can argue. Like they demolished the best. They stopped the Kansas City Chiefs from going for the three-peat, and it's just really surreal. It's really unbelievable.
You can't argue it, right? Like
no, like they won in a way that you can't argue, and that's what's awesome.
Yeah, you can't. Like I still, again, people are gonna like this. I still don't put those two individuals in the elite category. But again, I think there's Hall of Famers and Super Bowl people in that are not in the elite category. Like I put Jalen Hurts, I put Nick Sirianni. I go, okay, to me, you're in the Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson categories. The Eli Manning, although I don't know about Eli, but I mean, kind of Eli.
There's a lot of people who think Eli should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not one of them, but I'm saying there are people who count Eli as being an elite quarterback.
I would put Eli. I don't think he's elite, but again, I don't think any of those quarterbacks I just named are elite. Mm-hmm. I think Eli Manning should go in the Hall of Fame, but barely. I think he barely gets in the Hall of Fame. I don't think he's elite, put it that way. I don't think Terry Bradshaw's elite. I don't think Troy Aikman's elite. I don't think any of those individuals are elite, but it's still great, really good, and that's where I put Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni right now, with a lot of their career left. So that you can jump into the elite. That's just where I have you right now, right? Like Pat Mahomes is somewhere right now, but we all expect him to jump over certain individuals, and Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni are going to have a chance to jump over those individuals. I just like to rank people where I think they are right now, and that's where I think they are right now. But regardless, you can't critique them no more. There's no like, we can't win a championship with that guy. Like, yes, you can. Based on how the Eagles are structured, yes, you can win championships with those two individuals.
Championships. Yes.
Yeah. Championships. And again, one of my big questions, and a lot of people's big questions, and I'll ask you first, Dynasty. I'm gonna give you, since this is a betting show, an over-under. 2.5. If I give you 2.5 Super Bowls with this current regime, you already have one. Are you going with the over or the under? I know it's the wrong time to ask you. I think it's obvious what you're going to say, but
over.
So give me a number then.
Over
how many Super Bowls you think this regime will win?
3.
Okay.
I think they could win 3 because most players, and I actually pointed this out. Like anyone can look back at the contracts that Howie Roseman gave out, especially this offseason. Most, if not all of them, are for 3 years. Yep. So they clearly have like this 3-year, and I think that was in part because he's saying, okay, we have 3 years to get a Super Bowl win, and they went out and they did it in year 1. But also on offense, I think most of the players they have besides like Mekhi Becton and Kenny Gainwell are locked down for next season. Defense, you have guys like Josh Sweat, Milton Williams. I think they will pay Zach Bond. I hope they do. It'd be really stupid if they didn't. Howie Roseman certainly isn't stupid. But the team remains mostly intact. The big change is going to be offensive coordinator once again, which poor Jalen Hurts just keeps losing his coordinators. But, I mean, Nick Sirianni has now gone through 9 different offensive coordinators in 10 years, and that is not because they're getting fired. It's because they're all getting promoted. Yeah. Besides Brian Johnson. All right.
There was a fire or two in there. But.
Yeah. But for the most part, they go on to become head coaches. They go on to get promotions elsewhere. So, yeah, I mean, I think this team is set up to succeed again and again and again. And they're really impressive. Like, there's no other way to put it. And I think with Sirianni, he gets a lot of criticism. And I'm sure with this win, it'll still be, like you just mentioned, like, still have questions about him. Being around that team as I was, like, they knew There was no jitters. There was no like overhype. Like they were eerily calm and confident all week, and especially on game day because Nick Sirianni had them in that mindset. Not just throughout the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, but all season. So
yeah, I mean the MVP is Howie Roseman.
Well, yeah.
Like no, you still give Nick Sirianni gets their every individual gets their credit. But Howie Roseman and how he designed his team, the way how he picked the coaches, how he designed the team, it's ridiculous how much talent and how many dogs. Like some of that is on Howie and Nick getting together. Here are the dogs, and I'm not just talking about Georgia dogs. Just everybody being dogs. So again, we'll continue to talk about the Eagles' future, but we also have to talk about Kansas City's future, and we also have to talk about what are they. A lot of people are saying, you can't be Tom Brady. You can't be Bill Belichick anymore because they lost this Super Bowl. We'll tell you what we think about them coming up on the Sunday Spread. Welcome back to the Sunday Spread. Of course, Sean Bell here, Devin Caney here, presented by BetMGM. We were talking about the Eagles, their future. Again, I asked 2.5. I said, are they going to get over 2.5? You said they'll get 3 Super Bowls. That's a tough question for me to answer right now. I think it's a guaranteed 2.
Guaranteed 2?
It's a guaranteed.
From the number one hater himself. I love that.
I think Kenny's more of a number one hater than I am, but
yeah, that's true. Kenny was a big hater.
I throw a lot of hate out there. I think it's a guaranteed 2. I might go 3. The only problem is everybody needs a bag. Like you said, that's that 3-year window.
Yeah.
But everyone needs a bag. And I know Howie Roseman does magic with money. There's only so much magic you can do when AJ's going to come up. Devontae's going to come up again in a couple years. Saquon's going to come up in a couple years. Cooper, Quinyon, Jalen Carter. Like, you got to pay everybody top 3, right? They're going to be like, I'm asking for top 3 in the NFL bags. And that's what makes the decision hard. That would make sure you're going to have to continue to draft correctly. And he's done a great job. But that's what makes me hesitate with any team in today's NFL, because the bag you have to get out. That's the problem when you draft so well or you get free agents so well, right? Eventually bags. Zach Mullins about to get a bag.
Yeah.
Mekhi Boston's about to get a bag.
Yeah.
Right? Well, and it's life-changing bags. Like, this is my first big contract.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take the short just because I love the team. I need money to set me up for the rest of my life, and then I could think about taking shorts. So none of those individuals, maybe AJ, Saquon, and Devontae, maybe they take shorts. All those other rookie guys are not taking shorts because it's their first big bag.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you could argue that Saquon already is taking shorts. But you mentioned Howie Roseman being the MVP, and I just want to give a mention to Vic Fangio, the Eagles defensive coordinator, because, like, I mean, I think Nick Sirianni deserves his roses. I think Howie Roseman deserves credit, of course, the players. But Vic Fangio came in. This defense was bottom of the league, if not dead last place,
6th,
in almost every category last year. Almost every category. And you look back to Super Bowl 57, and their defense was good. Their strong suit was the guys up front, getting to the quarterback, but lost some of them to free agency, lost some of them to trades. Some of them were older, what have you. Vic Fangio came in here, and you mentioned guys like Zach Bond, who played for the Saints, but like I remember when the Eagles signed him, it was like we didn't talk about it at all because it was just like, okay. Like
nobody cared.
Another linebacker that the Eagles have historically just not prioritized the linebacker position, whether it's in the draft, whether it's signing free agents. Like that it's just not a position that I think Howie Roseman really prioritizes. And so they signed Zach Bond. It's like, all right, well, it's cool, like another mid linebacker. And I think he's just one of many, many, many examples of a guy who Vic Fangio is able to see and pinpoint exactly what they do well and then maximizes it. He did the same with Jordan Davis. We here in Philadelphia were saying Jordan Davis was potentially a bust of a first-round pick for the last 2 seasons, or whenever he was drafted, 2021. And he came out and played really well. I'm not going to say elite, but still really, really well. Jalen Carter, a lot of people were saying, he maybe wasn't in the best shape. He really fell off at the end of last season. Vic Fangio has a way of just like, I think he's really structured. I think he's tough. I think he has them all in really good conditioning shape. And B, he has a way of like finding what works for each player and individualizing and placing them in positions where they can be the best that they can be. And he deserves so much credit because that defense, like, that's why I feel like I was in the minority going into the Super Bowl saying, I don't see a way that this Chiefs offense can put up a ton of points because the Eagles defense is that good. And it took me a really long time to get there. I think it took a lot of people a really long time to get there this season of fully trusting them, given how bad and how much the Eagles or how severely they collapsed last season at the end of the year. And just week after week, the defense came out after going 2-2 and then going into the bye, and they stopped the best receivers in the league. They stopped the best quarterbacks in the league, and I had complete faith in them come Super Bowl time, and they showed up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the doubters, like myself, seeing the Rams move the ball and got a lot of yards. Washington, when they weren't fumbling, moved the ball and got a lot of yards. So our natural instinct is to go, well, if they were able to move the ball, if they were to get yardage on you, then Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid will be able to. And somehow that didn't occur. But again, it wasn't like we didn't see like the Rams were a play away from maybe winning that game. Like it did. You guys stopped people when you were great on defense, but it wasn't locked down and key in the playoffs. And you locked down and keyed Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid. That's what's just mind blowing about it. It's not that you guys didn't. It's not that you allowed so much. Like it's that you allowed nothing.
Nothing.
You know what I mean? From Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid, and everybody's in disbelief because of that. Last thing I'll say before we move on to the Chiefs, I told you, I think it's going to be running back holdout season in the offseason. Now, Saquon is so nice, he wants to be in Philadelphia. I do think he ups his money. I don't know how that affects everybody else.
I think they could up his money without him holding out.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he's going to hold out. I think they up his money in a way, whether it's I'm going to guarantee you everything on your contract as opposed to having incentives, or I'm going to up it a little bit over the next two because you won us a Super Bowl, you know, the MVP of our team won a Super Bowl, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think he gets more money. I don't know if that affects everybody else. Howie does a great job of that anyway. Now, Kansas City. I know you said they were going to get locked down. I know you said the Eagles were going to win. You had to be a little surprised about how inept they were.
I don't know. So it's so weird. I don't know if maybe it's a skewed memory of the game or not, but I genuinely think, you know, when I mentioned the Eagles, just overall energy going into that game and really throughout the entire postseason, it was just a very like calm, like we know that we're the better team, and I think that may have trickled down to me. So like I said, you know, leading up to the Super Bowl, I just didn't see the Kansas City Chiefs had been skating by all season long. All of their wins, or most of them, were like by less than 7 points, like a field goal, 1 point.
They were 12-0 in one score
games.
Games.
And they kept finding ways to get by. And Patrick Mahomes, I still think, is a great quarterback. I think his options on offense, as well as his O-line, are aging. And I don't know what the deal is with specifics with Kansas City Chiefs, you know, contracts, you know, who's up, who's not. But, you know, you look at guys like Joe Thuney, who's a great O-lineman, but maybe wasn't in the best position to succeed against a young guy like Jalen Carter. You're not going to be able to stop that. Like, he's going to eat you up. And Jalen Carter eats up a ton of O-linemen. Like, that, he's an incredible player. So I think credit's due to the defense on that front. But on offense, the Chiefs' best receiving option was what? Xavier Worthy, who is good and had a good season, but that's it, good. Like, it wasn't elite. It wasn't, you know, Jamar Chase level success. There was no explosive option for Mahomes to get the ball to. Travis Kelce had a very mediocre season. It honestly looked like Travis Kelce gave up mid-game in the Super Bowl. Like, have you seen that play where Mahomes is running for his life and Kelce is just standing there? He's literally just I don't know who the defender is who's on him in this particular play, but even like the guy on defense is like, what's going on? Like, why are you? He literally is just standing there. So I mean, I just think that maybe they were in over their heads. They thought that they had this in the bag, and they didn't. And it just wasn't an explosive offense. So I just didn't see a way for that lack of explosive offense, despite having Patrick Mahomes, to get past this Eagles defense when they locked up more explosive offenses throughout the entire season.
I get you, but even then, even when we were predicting games and we were predicting scores, you guys had them being more productive than that. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, oh, and I know they end up scoring 22 points, but you guys had them scoring a legitimate 20 points, a legitimate 24 points in a 10-point game, right? Like, maybe you have 10 points, but 24-34 was a lot of people's scores, things of that nature. Like, you still had him being more productive than absolutely shut. He had like 24 yards total in the first quarter and a half. It was just like, whoa, they can't even get a first down. So again, they also played their worst game of the season, and they weren't clicking. That interception he threw to Cooper DeJean. Shout out to Coop. He's my favorite player on the defense.
He's awesome.
Shout out to Coop. But even that is like, Pat, how'd you not see that? Like, what are we doing here? So again, terrible game from the Kansas City Chiefs and the Eagles, making them have a terrible game at the same damn time. What are they? They're talking about GOATs now, right? They were, again, the Eagles are looking to prove that they're somebody. The Chiefs were looking to prove that they are among legends. Now they're trying to say Pat Mahomes can't catch Tom Brady. Are you of the same ilk?
No. Like, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be a good quarterback for seasons to come. If that, like, I think Patrick Mahomes played the worst game maybe of his career in like recent years. I don't know. I would have to go back to the tape on like the last 5 seasons for him. But I also think the Eagles defense deserves credit for forcing that. Like, they had him running for his life, and they really prevented him from getting the ball to a ton of his options. But I still think that he will remain a good quarterback, and he's still young. Like, they're still, like, Patrick Mahomes is not going anywhere. He's going to be a problem in the league, I think, for a while. I don't know. I would need to look at the contracts of what the Chiefs have going on offense, but if I were them, I would try to bring in like a stud receiving option. I would maybe try to get, a stud running back, because it seems like this is a copycat league, and I think the moving forward now is, just like mobile quarterbacks became like the new it factor a couple seasons ago. Now it's going to be, well, look at what Derrick Henry did on the Ravens. Look at how Saquon Barkley completely revamped that Eagles offense. Like, we need a power back. Like, we need someone like that. And I think that is going to be the direction that a lot of these teams go. So I guess my point is, I think Patrick Mahomes will still be great. Will he catch Tom Brady? I don't know. I still think the Chiefs will be a threat next season and for seasons to come. But I do think they need to revamp their offense, especially roster-wise.
I think it's insane talk. Like, Pat's got another decade.
No, like he's fine. Like, yeah.
Like Tom Brady.
He's not going anywhere.
Tom Brady had the same amount of Super Bowls in his first 5-6 seasons also. Right? So it's just, he's on track. Tom Brady went 10 years without winning a Super Bowl before winning one again. So he can certainly win more. And again, you say Rashid Rice is coming back, which was their number 1 wide receiver. Xavier Worthy gets another year. And now all of a sudden he goes from the 1 wide receiver to the 2. Right? So how dynamic does he become being the second option and not the first option? They're going to have to try to find something with tight end Travis Kelce. But most importantly, offensive line. The 2 Super Bowls they lost where they were blown out. The Buccaneers and the Eagles. Pressure with 4. With 4, though. Not exotic blitzes, not because Pat Mahomes can handle all that. With 4. If you get and I don't care what quarterback you are in history, if they get pressured with 4, you're losing. And it's going to look bad with you. I even think if they had a great offensive line this year, I mean, I don't know what the results would have been, but it would have been a tight game at the very least. Because, again, if Pat has time, he can find it. And when he doesn't have time, we're obviously seeing no one in history can find it. So, again, I think they're going to be just fine. I think Andy Reid, the same thing. Andy Reid's probably going to retire when Pat's done, right? He probably going to be like, no, I'm going to wait another decade.
Yeah, how old is Andy Reid?
I don't even know.
Because I feel like there's been retirement, not talks from his end, but just like, when are you going to retire? Like, how many more do you need type of conversation
66.
around Andy Reid.
66.
I think he's going to stick around.
Another decade.
Yeah, I think he'll stick around.
Another decade. Another crazy thing to think about for the Eagles is Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox. The best tight end you ever had, the best center you ever had.
not a tight end.
Excuse me. Defensive tackle. I mean, he could
Are
have
you
played
thinking
tight
of
end.
Zach Ertz?
Yeah, I know. Defensive tackle. Greatest defensive tackle you've ever had. Greatest center you've ever had, retiring and then doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, that is ridiculous. What type of regret do you think they have? Like,
so that's a really interesting point, because I actually think you can go. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but here in Philadelphia, it's making the rounds. Jason Kelce talking to Travis on his podcast. I understand that Jason Kelce was torn watching that game because it's your brother and it's your former team. And Jason Kelce starts crying and is like just super dramatic about it. Like it's a bit much, honestly. And
it's not
crying.
I told y'all this would happen. Like I tried to tell the world, right?
What?
Like I know Philadelphia fans acting like you got to be Philly or nothing. You ain't my blood. I said this before when he said I can go either way. I'm gonna be happy and then I'm going to be sad. It hits differently when you see your brother play like trash. When you see your brother dominate and you see your brother lose. Forget all that other stuff. Oh, we are brothers in arms and playing football. I saw my brother lose. I'm in tears. I don't care what allegiance I had. Y'all just friends. Right? We bathed together.
My point. Ew.
I mean, that's fact. Like, I got 2 kids. When you got 2 kids under a certain age,
no,
they got to bathe together.
Well,
like
clearly Travis Kelce did not feel that way 2 years ago when he was up there acting a fool after beating his brother's team. My point is, I think, and like, I understand, I know it's genuine emotion for his brother, and like, I do get that. I think that Jason Kelce has a lot that like he's grappling with. And I think I don't know what person in their right mind wouldn't have that. Well, maybe I retired too soon. You know, maybe like I could have stuck around and like, look at how much fun they're having. Look at how dominant a win they had. So I think that is certainly something that's on his mind. Like I would have regret too.
I'm sure he has regrets, but Eagles fans I'm sorry, y'all need to get off his back.
I don't care. I just feel like it's like, why is this a story that's even on my timeline? Like, true. I don't care. I'm so sick of the Kelces.
You got Eagle fans talking about like he's no longer on my favorite.
Well, he built his whole
Mount
brand.
Rushmore
he built his whole brand off of Philadelphia. Whole brand.
Yeah, because he played in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But my brother becomes before you losers. Like I don't get what like anybody.
You just called us losers.
If it's my sibling versus anybody, you're a loser in comparison to my sibling. If I'm rooting for my sibling, like I knew as soon as the game happened that it was gonna be like, yeah, you're gonna act like you're down the line, but once you see your brother hurting or struggling,
yeah,
it's not an emotion you can really control.
Well, especially in a loss like that, I understand that.
Not something you can control. All right, Dev, go do your thing. She's going to the Eagles locker room right now, so
yes,
go do your thing. Everybody happy. They probably still smoking cigars. Probably still smell like liquor. Probably got no sleep because Saquon and Jalen are everywhere. Every freaking where. So go enjoy. We'll continue the show. Barrett Brooks coming in a little bit.
Wait, can I just say really quick?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sad that this is our last episode of the season. I hope we're back next year because it's genuinely so much fun to get to hang out with you and Barrett and our producer Kenny and Dylan and everyone at BetMGM Network every week. So thank you.
Well, that's the first nice thing you said that has me in there.
Oh, well, yeah, I can be nice sometimes when my team wins.
Exactly. Sunday spread. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Sunday spread presented by BetMGM. Devin Caney out, Barrett Brooks in. I told you it's going to be a whole lot of people yelling at me and saying I told you so throughout this entire show. Devin said I told you so. Now it's time for B. Brooks to say I told you so. Barrett Brooks, former Eagle. All right, just a Super Bowl champ, although for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A guy who works in Philadelphia, covers a team, analyzes a team, gives a lot of the players tips. Talk about what you saw from this game and your feelings and emotions seeing this team dominate.
It was unbelievable to me, you know, because I remember their first game back September 5th. And we can go back. You can run it back. We talked that Thursday before the game. We talked that we had to do an earlier show, so we talked on like Tuesday or Wednesday, and I said if the Eagles make Saquon Barkley wins the rushing title, the Eagles win the Super Bowl. And then we went into what the teams were going to be in the Super Bowl. I said the Eagles, if Saquon wins the rushing title, will beat the Chiefs. and I've been dead set on it all year, and I've been saying that quote all year. Saquon wins the rushing title. Eagles win the Super Bowl. And it worked out just as I said. Just as I said. The only thing I didn't know is how good the defense was going to be, man. But like I said, I told you so. Because you had talked about how the 49ers had did the same thing when they went out and got their running back. When they went out and got, he was the best player in the NFL. He should have won MVP that year also. But, I kind of spoke it and told y'all what was going to happen.
Well,
I'll let you know.
I know. How surprised. I know you predicted this, but I think most people were surprised about how dominant it was, right? Even if you thought that the Eagles were going to win by 10 points, even if you thought the Eagles would confidently win the game, I think the majority of people who are a little bit objective were surprised about how dominating it was. I mean, it was 40-6, and then they got garbage points. I mean, they had about 24 yards through a quarter and a half. Talk about the pure dominance that you saw. Were you surprised, or at least how surprised were you by the fact that Patrick Mahomes couldn't even get a first down in this game?
SB, I'm going to tell you the truth, but I knew that they were going to win. Like, my score was 32-26. But there's no way, and there's no way anybody could say that they were going to go out and dominate like they did. Even though I had a pulse on what they were going to do, I knew they were going to win convincingly, but not that damn convincingly. For them to go out there and just totally dismantle that team, I mean, they made them look bad. They made them their bitches. Period. They beat them that bad. I mean, there was nothing they could do. And I started equating to, just after the Rams game. That's when I really figured out that this team is going to be a dominant team. Because I'm going to tell you the truth, I think the Rams were probably the best team they played in the playoffs.
It was the closest game.
Yeah, I mean, it was that's the best team. Once they played the Rams and beat the Rams, at home, and they got hot after that. The Rams got hot after that. I really thought that the Rams were the best team. I thought the Rams probably better. I think the Rams would have beat the 49ers. I mean, not the 49ers, but the Lions also. I think they would have also beat Washington. Their defense got better and better as that season went on. So once they beat the Rams, and then they went into the playoffs and beat the Rams, then I said, yeah, they're the total package now. This team is really, really good because at that point, it didn't matter what the opposing team was, what jersey they had on, what the name on the back of their jersey was, the emblem on their helmet. It did not matter to the Eagles because they were going to play the Eagle way. And I know y'all remember talking about the Eagle way. Tough physical football. They're going to dictate tempo. They're going to dictate what they're going to do, and the teams that they're playing would have to adjust after that. Instead of them adjusting, the teams that they were playing would have to adjust to what they do. And I really thought the turning point was after that Rams game because, I mean, they really took over physically, mentally. They knew they had it in the bag. It's not if they were going to win, but they knew they were going to win.
So let me ask
even when
you
it was to the Commanders. I knew they were going to beat the Commanders.
Let me ask you
I told you then it would be.
As an offensive lineman, right? Because clearly the key is, and what I didn't realize would happen or I didn't think would happen was the amount of pressure that they would be able to get with just 4. Right? Like, again, I knew you had a solid defensive line, but Jalen Carter is obviously all pro and he's great, but he doesn't get a lot of sacks. Your Josh Sweat with Brandon Graham coming back, the pass rushers aren't elite pass rushers. So I didn't think on a consistent basis that you would be able to knock Patrick Mahomes off of his cue. And they were able to do, again, that's how you beat Patrick Mahomes. That's how you beat any quarterback, matter of fact, if you can be able to get there with 4. Because they had a lot of plays with Xavier Worthy that it needed time to develop. And there was no time to develop. As an offensive lineman, speak from that end. As an offensive lineman, what do you do in these type of situations, right? Like when you put yourself, I know it's hard to do, but put yourself in the Kansas City Chiefs tackle. Put yourself as a tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. What are you thinking during a game like this?
There's nothing you could do to stop the bleeding. Maybe you run play action. Maybe you move the pocket a little bit, run some waggle protection. Waggle protection is you block it like almost like run, pull the backside guard from the backside and have him like as a guy that could be in front of him, be in front of Mahomes, as like a security guard in front of him. and hopefully get the ball out there, run boot protections. You can boot him out. Just move the pocket. Don't keep him in the middle of the pocket. And that's where I think Andy Reid got out-coached. They tried to keep him inside the pocket when your tackles weren't that good. I mean, both tackles were trash because one tackle was a guard. And, he's a really damn good guard, but they're moving the tackle because that's the only thing they could do to stop the bleeding. And even he couldn't do that. It's hard. And that's one thing I didn't understand about Andy. How did Andy let his tackles, his offensive line, become as useless as he was? I mean, that's how they build in Philadelphia. They build in the trenches. I wonder how and why he, took that philosophy, and he's the one that made that philosophy. Why would they take that philosophy and leave it where in Philadelphia and not bring it to Kansas City with them? You got to have a great offense. If anything, you got to have a good offensive line because the offensive line allows you to do whatever you want to do. It allows you to then dictate tempo. It allows you to go out there and run the offenses you want to run. It doesn't make sense to have a $200 or $300 million. No, in fact, a half a billion dollar quarterback back there, and that's what his contract was, $500 million. $500 million quarterback without an offensive line to block for him. I mean, he was steady letting guys go. Orlando Brown, they trade for Orlando Brown, then they let him go. I didn't understand that. I mean, why would you allow your offensive line to leave like that? I mean, you had Humphreys they drafted in the first round. He's either one or two. Cam Jurgens or him, you got the kind of flip-flops on, who's the best center in the NFL. And those two flip-flop a lot, along with Lindenbaum with the Ravens. Those three guys are probably the best in the NFL right now. But how do you allow that to happen? Andy, I don't understand it, man. You build in the trenches. That's the first thing you did when you got to the Philadelphia as a rookie coach. So, you want to solidify the trenches. You went out and got John Runyon. You made sure your tackles were the best tackles in the league. That way you can help your quarterback. And he just let that offensive line go. I mean, it just let him fall by the wayside, and it hurt him this year. That's why they were only winning by one touchdown or, less than a touchdown because they just didn't have enough on the offensive line to really help them.
Let me ask you this, and these are a couple questions I asked Dev. I want to get your opinion on the first half of this show. I said the number, over or under 2.5 Super Bowls for this Eagles regime, meaning the combination of Jalen, Nick Sirianni. Over or under 2.5. And being that you just won a Super Bowl, I'm going to guess you're going to say over. So if you're saying over, give me the amount. Devin said 3.
I'm going to say under. And I'm just going to go 2. And that's only because it's just so hard to win in the NFL. So not counting this Super Bowl, but
No, I'm counting this Super Bowl.
Oh, count this. Well, I'm going to have to say 3. Yeah, I'll say 3. Counting this Super Bowl, I'm going to say it's 3.
Okay.
I really think that their core is, everybody's paid.
That's the problem I said told Dev. I said, the thing I'm unsure about, I said, I know they're getting another one. The thing I'm unsure about is they did a great job at drafting, obviously.
Yeah, they did.
But eventually you gotta pay AJ again. You gotta pay Devontae again. You gotta pay Saquon again.
No, they have to pay AJ. They gotta pay Devontae.
AJ's another 3 years, right? Like 2 or 3 years. Is what I'm saying. Like I think they have a 3-year pocket here where everybody's good, everybody's under contract. But outside of that, when you talk about Jalen in the next, because Jalen's gonna be here for the next decade. Outside of that, you got to pay those guys again. Saquon, Devontae, and AJ, and they may take a price cut. But you also got to pay Cooper. You also got to pay Quinyon. You also got to pay Jalen. You also got to pay Jordan Davis. All guys who are going to say, I want top 3 at my position type of money. That's why the NFL is so hard, right? Like, you have to continue to draft well, and Howie's done a great job at drafting well. But it's just, woo! Because of the amount of talent they have, this team, everybody's going to say, pay me my money. And so I think that's going to be a little bit tough. Let me flip it. Kansas City Chiefs. Everyone's saying Tom Brady. You're not going to catch Tom Brady, et cetera, et cetera. Now they're down for some reason on Patrick Mahomes. So Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowls. Over under 5.5 Super Bowls for Pat Mahomes. Because he has 3 already. So when he ends his career, over under 5.5.
I'm gonna say over.
Ooh, okay. So you still think he gets the Tom Brady number of 6?
Yeah, I think he will because regardless of what happened in that game, he's still the best.
Oh, that's right. Brady has
league.
7. I apologize. Yeah. So maybe I should have said 6.5, but we'll stick to 5.5.
I think that he's still the most talented quarterback in the league, but he can't do it by himself. And they're going to go out and get some linemen. See, the one thing, that Howie Roseman is doing right now, he's drafting well because he paid the quarterback. Once you pay the quarterback, it's all about the draft. If you can't draft, you're not going to be successful. Howie Roseman for the previous 4 years before the last 3 years, since they drafted Davis. Before Davis, it was nothing but free agency. He tried to use free agency to plug certain holes in, and it wasn't working. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't working with the linebackers. That position was if a guy wasn't drafted here, then they usually didn't have great results when they were here. When he started drafting linebackers, they usually panned out a lot better than like T.J. Edwards. He panned out. He was a really good a really good linebacker for us. I forget the kid that was they drafted from Texas. He was here. He was pretty good for us. Michael Kendricks was pretty good for us. But we tried to bring in guys to come in and fill holes. They weren't very good at that. But after the quarterback, you really got to be great at drafting once you pay your quarterback. And right now, it's like the opposite effect for the Eagles right now because they paid their quarterback, but their whole entire defense, with the exception of like 3 or 4 guys, are guys that are young or under the first year. The first years of their contract.
Howie drafted
a rookie deal.
Howie was known for being bad at drafting in the first round or second round, but he's absolutely hit in the last 3 years. All right, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, it's future time. We're gonna talk about next year, and we're gonna talk about the year after that. We're gonna talk about what each team needs to do, and we're gonna talk about our biggest disappointment this past year and the biggest surprise that happened this past year. That's coming up on the Sunday Spread. Welcome back to the Sunday Spread presented by BetMGM. Sean Bell, Devin Caney, Barrett Brooks. It's just me and B Books right now. But we got to bring in our producer, Kenny Henderson, because you've heard Devin reference the biggest Eagles haters on this show. It's been me and it's been Kenny. And I think it's been Kenny more than me. So, Kenny, I'm going to bring you in here. Your biggest questions all year long has been about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. Now those two have won a Super Bowl. Has your opinion changed?
No, actually. Now I'll have to explain myself. I think that
they're
the right
please.
guys.
Please.
I think they're the right guys for that Eagles team specifically. I just think that, we look at this Eagles team, and I said this, I was on record saying this when, we would talk about the Hurts-Sirianni dynamic, that they were the best roster in football in my eyes. Like, I looked at 1 through 53, and I was like, this is the best team in football. And I decided to put too much attention towards the Nick Sirianni Hurts dynamic of they're going to have to show up in the biggest moments. And that's what I was wrong about. As far as them not being amongst some of the guys that I compared him to, like when I picked the Rams to beat the Eagles, it was a lot because I believed in McVay and Stafford and their experience as opposed to Hurts and Sirianni. And that really showed in that game. I think although the Eagles won that game, I think McVay outcoached Sirianni in the Eagles. And I think that Matthew Stafford outplayed Jalen Hurts in that game. But despite all of that, this was the best team in football, and both Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni did exactly what they needed to do to raise that Lombardi trophy, and that's where I was wrong. I think Jalen Hurts is now firmly a top 10 quarterback. We can have conversations about top 5, and I think Nick Sirianni at least is a top half of the league head coach and is definitely the right guy for that football team. So, but my opinion as far as them not being elite, I think Devin thinks that they're both elite. I still don't believe that, and I think that's where the conversation was she thinks that they are, and maybe this is a step towards that, and I'll be wrong if they do it again, and they do it again. But as of now, I still think this is more about who the Eagles were 1 through 53, as opposed to having top tier head coach, top tier quarterback. So
okay, let me ask y'all this. I got you, Barrett, but we're gonna narrow this down for all of us. So let me ask y'all this. Let's play a little game. I want you to rank where Jalen Hurts is right now. What number do you have as a quarterback? If you need me to throw out quarterback names, we can do that. But I want each one of you to say, where do you have him in the pecking order, right? Like you just said, Kenny, top 10. So let's get a specific number down. Where do you have him in that top 10? Do you want me to name some quarterbacks and throw him out there and say, do you think he's better than or not better than? Maybe that'd be a fun game.
I think I have him at number 7.
Okay, so who's above him?
Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. I think that's got to be the top 4 given what they've done the last 4 or 5 plus years. And then it really starts to get into conversation of all the NFC guys. So you've got Jaden Daniels, Matthew Stafford. I think those would be the 2. And Stafford's tough because of his age, but I think in that playoff game in the snow on the road, he showed with a worse team that he's better than Jalen Hurts. So I would say behind those 6 guys.
Okay. All right. That's 4. You said Jaden Daniels?
Jaden Daniels and Matthew Stafford would be 5 and 6 for me.
Okay. Barrett, your ranking. You're already upset. What's your ranking of the quarterbacks?
You got to put him in top 5. You got to put him as elite. You have to. But you got to define what elite. Now, I'll take all day. Okay, you don't think he has an elite arm or elite accuracy or but you got to say he's elite. You know what? And let's coin this phrase. Let's say this. He's an elite winner. That's what we'll call him, an elite winner. You got to put him in that category. He has to be a top 5 quarterback. He's got a Super Bowl. He's been to 2 Super Bowls in his career. Out of his draft, only one guy's been there, and none of them have won it. Only one guy's been there. The guys that were in his draft. So you got to say that Jalen Hurts works within the framework of the offense that they're giving him. He's had 4 or 5. I think this is going to be his 6th offensive coordinator in the past 4 years. Come on, man.
Okay.
You got to say that he is an elite guy because he wins. And a lot of people always said, oh, I don't want to hear that he wins. Well, I mean, what is your purpose on the team? Stats don't make you elite. Winning makes you elite. That's the ultimate stat right there. Look at Joe Burrow. He's ripping it to everybody, but nobody talks about, he's got elite receivers. That's why he can do that. You put him with any other receivers, you think he's going to be doing the same thing?
Yes. I'm in between you guys. I'm in between. I have him at number 5. I have him as but I don't have him as elite. I think there's only 4 elite quarterbacks in this league. I think that's Pat Mahomes. We've done this before, but give me a second. I'll define elite. But I think it's Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. I think those are the 4 elite quarterbacks. I think Jalen Hurts is the best of the rest right now. Again, Matthew Stafford's a little bit older. And how I define elite is what Barrett wants to know. Is being able to be elite or being able to have great play consistently. Let's not forget where Jalen Hurts started off the year at. They were 2-2. He had 7 turnovers, and they had to take the ball from his hands. Now, don't get me wrong. That's not a bad thing to put the ball in Saquon Barkley's hand. But it wasn't like they said, Saquon's Barkley, great. This is great. Let's give him the ball. No, they actually had to take it away from Jalen because he was playing poorly. Jalen had the most turnovers out of any quarterback in a 17-game span. And I think that happens with any quarterback that's not elite, that doesn't have the proper things around him. So I think with the elite quarterbacks, the top 4, it doesn't matter the talent you have around him. We see Pat Mahomes, what talent he has around him. I'm still going to throw for 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I think those 4 people at the top goes, doesn't matter if I have a great offensive line. It doesn't matter if I have a great running back. Doesn't matter if I have great wide receivers. You saw that with Josh Allen. I'm still going to get you 12 wins, and I'm still going to have minimal turnovers, and I'm still going to have this offense scoring 27 a game. The elite quarterbacks can do that. The non-elite quarterbacks, anybody outside of the top 4, can't do that. Their circumstance has to be right. Jared Goff's circumstance has to be right. Jaden Daniels ain't there yet. His circumstance has to be right for him to perform at that elite level. Now, all the quarterbacks can be at an elite level if you give them the right talent, but they're not consistently playing great football and putting everything on their backs yet. So that's why I have him at 5. You're not elite, but you are the best of the rest. And oh, by the way, just so no one kills me, I don't think Troy Aikman was elite. But he won Super Bowls and went to the Hall of Fame. He wasn't better than Dan Marino. I don't think Big Ben was elite. And he was kind of elite at the middle of his career. But when he won a Super Bowl, when he won a Super Bowl, he wasn't elite. I don't even think Russell Wilson was elite. Joe Flacco wasn't elite. But they won Super Bowls. Joe Flacco is not going to the Hall of Fame. Matthew Stafford wasn't elite either. But he won a Super Bowl because their circumstances were right those particular years.
Now, you saying Big Ben, I think Big Ben was elite. He didn't have, like, he had one. He would always have one in his stable that was good enough to take him to that next level. I'm gonna say that. But 9 times out of 10, like the year I won a Super Bowl, we had Hines Ward. Hines Ward was slow as pond water. Hines Ward running around there with no cartilage in his knee. You know, he didn't have not cartilage, but no ACL. He didn't have an ACL. But he didn't have it.
But you were yelling, "Give it to the bus." Remember? Give it to the bus. Give it to the bus. Because Ben couldn't carry it. Ben couldn't carry it. So with that said, let's move on over to the head coaches. Nick Sirianni, where does he rank? Again, you said, Kenny, he's like middle of the pack. I'll start with Barrett first this time. Where would you rank him as head coaches in the league right now?
He's at least top 5. He's got to be in the top 5. Got to be in the top 5. He has had 1 year. He had 9 wins. The rest he's had over 11 wins. You know, his entire career. He's been to the playoffs. He's been coaching 4 years. He's been up to the playoffs every single year. He's been a coach. He's been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years. If that's not elite, when you have a quarterback, you're saying that's not elite, but yet he's got him and his quarterback in the Super Bowl, losing one and winning a Super Bowl. But how is that not elite as a coach? He is the type of coach. Everybody gets mad because he's not a play calling coach, but play calling coach. This stuff happened within the last 10 years. Before this, everybody was a coach like that. I mean, you got to be able to master your surroundings, master your team. That team plays hard for Nick, and that's all you can get you guys to do. They bought in his system.
Let's do this real quick. Hey, I want you and Kenny to answer. I'm gonna name some coaches out there. I want you to tell me whether he's better than these coaches. Sean Payton.
Sean Payton's better than Nick Sirianni.
Yes, I'll say that. Yeah.
Andy Reid. I don't think I have to ask that.
Yes.
We're gonna forget about Raiders coach Jim Harbaugh.
Yes.
Both of y'all, Barrett, you think he's better than you think
Jim
Harbaugh is better, or let me just make sure we're clear, or you think
Jim is better? Yes.
Jim is better. Okay, let's go. That's 3. DeMeco Ryans.
No.
You can't say that, but personally, here's where I'm going to jump in on that. I just think that Nick Sirianni is more the right guy for the specific Eagles team, and it's more about, like, Sean, you're a 49ers fan, so you understand that, like, both the Eagles and the Niners are, like, they're the cream of the crop of the NFC, and it's mainly because of the rosters, not the quarterback. And, yeah, Shanahan's a good head coach. Sirianni's done a good job with this team. But, like, that's not what – and this has been the conversation all along – that's not what we're pointing to here. Like, it's the rosters and how good this team is. I think if you sub Sirianni out for a lot of these guys and bring a guy like DeMeco Ryans into the Eagles, it's not much different.
Well, that's why I'm asking. Because I'm trying to get a number. John Harbaugh.
No.
John Harbaugh is better.
Bengals head coach.
I don't think so.
You don't think he is? You don't think John Harbaugh is better than Nick Sirianni? Okay. Bengals coach.
No.
Mike
Zach
Tomlin.
Taylor, no. Yes.
I'm trying to go to the NFC coaches. Sean McVay.
Yes. He's better. I mean, he's the CEO of the Rams. Everything goes like Howie Roseman and the Eagles as a whole operate so much differently than a team like the Rams. Like, yes, Sirianni is a big part of the decisions being made in the roster, but like, I think that McVay came in and was the CEO of everything. Yes, Les Snead, the general manager, does a good job as well, but like he just has more control over the football team. And I think if you traded, if the Eagles got a call from the Rams saying, we'll give you Sean McVay for Nick Sirianni, they're saying yes, hanging up the phone and throwing a party. So that's my opinion.
Okay. Barry, you have your fringe right now?
I'm friends with that. Yeah. Okay. I'm right on the fringe because What makes him a good coach doesn't necessarily mean that he's a good head coach.
Okay.
I think he's a good play caller.
We'll get back to that because I'm just trying to get in a roundabout spot. And we don't have to nail it down to the exact spot. Kyle Shanahan.
I'm gonna say Kyle, yes.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Okay. Yeah, I say yes.
And I'm only giving y'all, I'm not going through every team because I'm only going to give y'all the ones that are worthy. Matt LaFleur.
No.
I can't say that, especially after what happened in the playoffs. I thought he was better, but I can't say that now.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Sean McDermott.
No.
I'll bring up one guy, and
let me do Dylan's real quick. Dylan said Mike McDaniels versus Nick Sirianni.
Oh, Sirianni easily.
Okay.
All right. What about
you were going to bring up a guy?
I was just going to bring up Dan Campbell.
I think they're equal.
They're the same guy essentially.
I'll put Nick
it's
over.
just you have to put Sirianni. I love Dan Campbell. He's my guy, but I have to put Sirianni ahead of him now because Campbell crumbled in the big spot again, and Sirianni just won the Super Bowl. So there you go. That's what I think. Dan Campbell, Nick Sirianni are right around 11, 12 head coaches.
To me, it sounds like y'all have them in between 7 and 9. If I name, because I don't think there's any other coach that I need to name that y'all would even put on that list. So I've only named about 6 people that y'all are for sure about are better.
So I mean, like what makes Matt LaFleur even equal or even in the same ballpark as
I didn't say LaFleur was better than Sirianni.
Yeah, he picked he picked Nick Sirianni over.
You mean McVay?
Okay. No, LaFleur.
I said McVay was better.
Okay. I don't think they did.
Him and McVay both have a Super Bowl. And I think that that Rams team was a lot worse. I just believe that this Eagles team is just so good, just a lot like the Niners, that it's not to take anything away from Hurts and Sirianni, but I think you can sub them out for a lot of people at their respective positions, and this Eagles team would still be able to accomplish, great heights. That's what I believe. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but
the way I was looking at it was, if knowing what you know now, if you stripped every team down and you just had a draft, the quarterback or the head coach, you just drafted it. You didn't know what was coming along with it. You didn't know what type of offense, defense you had. You just drafted. Where would they come in the draft, in their respective drafts? Where would Hurts come in his respective draft? Where would Nick Sirianni go in his respective draft? At least that's how I looked at it with these two. Again, I think both very good. I wouldn't put elite. But again, they're teetering because of how much success they have had. But all we know this, Harry Roseman is the best in the game. And that makes everybody's job a lot easier. All right, when we come back, we'll finally look at the future. And I want to chronicle the biggest loser. The biggest loser in the entire NFL. There's one team, there's one individual that's the biggest loser in the entire NFL, and I want to chronicle why they're the biggest loser coming up next on the Sunday Spread. Welcome back to the Sunday Spread presented by BetMGM. 3 segments down, 3 more to go. 4 segments down, only 2 more to go. I want to talk about the biggest loser, Barrett. The biggest loser, and I'm not talking about the show. The biggest loser is the New York Giants, because things keep coming out about the Giants that make you go, what in the F were you doing, right? So already, Saquon Barkley may be the biggest free agency signing in the history of sport, right? Because in basketball, one free agency signing does a little bit more, but in football, certainly, Saquon leaving the Giants and going to the Eagles wins him a Super Bowl and wins the Giants a Super Bowl. It's similar, honestly, to what Deion Sanders did. Remember when Deion Sanders left Atlanta? He was like, San Fran, I'm going to make you a Super Bowl winner. Then I'm going to leave and go to Dallas, and I'm going to make you a Super Bowl winner. Similar to that. But when the stories come out about how everything was just fumbled by the Giants, it blows my mind. So we already know about them fumbling Saquon and the owner, Mara, being like, I'm going to have a hard time if he goes to the Eagles. But then also sleeping. And he ain't sleeping right now, because not only did he go to the Eagles, he won a damn Super Bowl and was the MVP of the team while winning the Super Bowl. Did you hear what Michael Parsons had to say about the Giants?
No, what did he say?
Michael Parsons said that the Giants told him they were going to draft him at 11. And he was certain that he was going to go to the New York Giants. Was happy about going to the New York Giants. The 11th pick comes, and guess what the New York Giants do? They trade back, and they draft Kadarius Toney.
Kadarius Toney, that was crazy.
They trade back and draft Kadarius Toney when they promised they would go get Micah Parsons. Think about that. You let go of Saquon Barkley, probably a future Hall of Famer after this season. Micah Parsons, a future Hall of Famer, if injuries don't occur. So that's 2 future Hall of Famers you let go. And then, you probably saw this video on Hard Knocks too, where the GM, Joe, whatever you say his name, Sean, or whatever, however you say it, asked his son who he would pick in the draft. And his son goes, I would pick Jaden Daniels. That's who you should go get. He laughs at his son. Like, how are we going to go get? We got Daniel. Hey, you just asked me. I'm sitting here playing my video game. You just asked me. Okay? Who would I go get? I would trade up. I don't know what you're doing. I would trade up and go get Jaden. He's the truth. Jaden Daniels, one of the best rookie quarterback seasons we've seen in a long time, is a future stud. Was able to go to the second round of the playoffs and face the Philadelphia Eagles. Those are 3, again, Jaden Daniels, Saquon Barkley, Micah Parsons. 3 greats. Again, 2 that we think is certainly going to go to the Hall of Fame. At least they have Hall of Fame talent if they don't get injured. And Jaden Daniels, who could be another fantastic quarterback for a decade to come. And the Giants fumble it all and are where they are right now.
I mean, tricked it off. I mean, but then, hold on. You fire your head coach, but you keep your GM? The GM that made all these mistakes?
Yeah. And Dave Gettleman, I believe, was the one who made the mistake with Michael Parsons. So it's just bad GMing after bad GMing. And it's crazy because, Barrett, the Giants have been, at least before recent years, were considered one of the 5 best franchises in all of football, right? For 40 years. And all of a sudden, they are the Cleveland Browns of the NFL. Absolutely nuts.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. And you ask anybody what's going on, that their whole fan base were Eagles fans going into the playoffs just to spite the Giants, and their fandom. They turned. Oh, we're just gonna say we're Barkley fans. We can't say anything about this. This organization doesn't know how to do anything, and they keep on. And their offensive line, I don't understand. They got 2 first rounders at the tackle positions, but nobody stays healthy. They just don't know how to draft anymore. I don't understand it, bro. I don't understand.
Again, we haven't seen fumbling like this since Tiki Barber first got to New York. What is your sort of biggest disappointment and biggest surprises? I think my biggest disappointment was the Houston Texans, a team that I think a lot of people thought would make that jump. Now, granted, they still made the playoffs. They went through the sophomore slump, which a lot of quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud, and head coaches go through. But I thought they were going to be a lot more dynamic. Granted, Nico Collins missed some time. Stephon Diggs was out for the season. Again, and they played the Chiefs close in the divisional round. But I thought they were going to be more potent and a better just overall team. So they're sort of the most disappointing team for me when I look at this season. What about you?
I think the biggest disappointment was actually my first, inkling on how the Arizona Cardinals were going to be a better team than they were. They just totally tricked it off, man. They tricked off an entire season. They were supposed to be way better than that. I mean, Kyler Murray, became more disciplined. I thought he's, laid off the video games and started studying. I thought he was going to have a better season than he did. They sucked. Defense sucked. I mean, you got a defensive-minded coach. How does your defense suck when you have a defensive-minded coach? They really, really, really they hurt me, man. They hurt me. They were my pick. They were my pick.
You thought they were going to win the division.
Yeah, to win. I mean, even, I just wanted to be a thorn in your side, talking about your 49ers. But no, I mean, the Cardinals, they didn't want to do anything right, bro. So that's the worst pick I ever had. That's the worst one. I apologize, to anybody that, went with my inkling and lost money.
Yeah.
Because the Cardinals sucked.
They did. Again, 8-9. middle of the road, a little below middle of the road football team.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not going to say the 49ers are my biggest disappointment just because injuries. Like if any team,
Bro, you guys would have walked in one. There was only one team that had more injuries than you guys, and that was probably what the Lions.
I don't. No, statistically, the 49ers had the most injuries. We had 11 Pro Bowlers miss more than 2 games. Nobody even has 11 Pro Bowlers. 11 Pro Bowlers at least 2 games. That's absurd.
Bro, how do both your kickers get hurt?
A third string kicker. Like, what are we doing right now? And our punter was hurt at the same time, by the way, during that kicker stretch. Right. So it was just a comedy of error for the San Francisco 49ers. So that's why they're not my biggest disappointment, even though it is disappointing. It's just that's something you can't help. My biggest surprise.
Debo, hold on. Debo, that's about trading Debo?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that next segment. I like them trading Debo, quite frankly.
Oh, ooh.
But we'll get to trades, drafts, and future things coming up. My biggest surprise, Washington Commanders have to be 12-5, the biggest turnaround. I knew Jaden Daniels was a good quarterback. I didn't know he was going to be this damn good. Washington Commanders winning a playoff game too. Again, this was a franchise under Daniel Snyder that was an absolute joke. Nobody wanted to play there. And now, Barrett, they're arguably the most desired location in the entire NFL when it comes to wanting to go there as a free agency, them having money to spend for you, having space for you, and just wanting to play with a great young quarterback. Even Myles Garrett, again, we'll talk about him in the next segment. Even Myles Garrett talked about, well, that'd be a nice place. Finally, a place that has a quarterback that's going to be there and that's going to be really good for the next decade. That was my biggest surprise. Was that also yours?
No, my biggest surprise was probably Minnesota. The mere fact that their starting quarterback, who they drafted, J.J. McCarthy, got hurt before the season started, and they brought in Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold led this team to the playoffs.
Yeah, nobody thought.
And I mean, where they have 14 wins? Led them to a 14-win season. Yeah, 14-win season. And and to me, it was just amazing how they were able to call on an offense that with the backup quarterback that played the way he played, man. That was amazing to me. That had to have been, the biggest surprise for me. I just thought that that conference was just so tough, and Minnesota were the ones that were going to, at least compete for it with the Lions. So I was really, really, really surprised on how good they were. They had a good portion of the season. They didn't even have Justin Jefferson. So the way their defense played, the way they had, those guys going, that was probably the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah, and
that was amazing.
And I'll go to this, and I got to go to our Chicago guys, Barrett, because my second biggest appointment is the Chicago Bears. Kenny Henderson's own Chicago Bears. I listen, I didn't think Caleb Williams was that great, but I didn't think they would fall off the way they did. Again, they started the season really well, ended up 5-12, 5-12 with the talent they had. They got talent. They got talent all over that field, and they end up being terrible down the stretch. Kenny, I'm going to jump to you. Your Chicago Bears, I know that's your squad. Is that by far your biggest disappointment?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, to me, I had them going 8-9 this year. Of course, they didn't even get to that. But to hear all in the offseason that this is the best situation a rookie quarterback's ever walked into, the offense is going to be clicking early with those receivers. You had DeAndre Swift. Everyone was talking about the defense, especially how they played towards the end of the season prior. But I knew that Eberflus was a bad coach. I knew that they didn't have an offensive line. I knew that they didn't have a pass rush. And outside of the quarterback, the trenches in the coaching is the most important part of a football team. Barrett, you know this. Sean, you know this. I mean, for whatever reason, as an NFL community or Bears fans, whoever was high on the Bears, for whatever reason, we're blind to the fact that they don't have anything in the trenches. They've got a rookie quarterback and they've got bad coaching. And that was your result. And it was disappointing just to see, especially them go 4-2 to then drop 10 straight games. And getting that win against the Packers in the final week was definitely good for the momentum going forward. But, I mean, it didn't mean anything. Jordan Love leaves that game. the Packers kind of give up. But yeah, no, definitely Bears got to be up there for most disappointing. And you guys were talking about most surprising. One team that you guys didn't mention, the Denver Broncos. I think Denver, what they were able to do, everybody was counting out Bo Nix. For them to be able to get into the playoffs, I know the AFC towards the bottom half isn't as strong there. They kind of backed their way in. They lost that game to Cincinnati in the second to last season, but I still think that a team with a win total of 4.5, 5.5 coming into the season to make the playoffs with a rookie quarterback was very impressive to me.
Yeah, I forgot about the Broncos because I hated on the Broncos a good bit. I said Sean Payton ain't got it no more. And Bo Nix, the guy who went to 4 different schools in college, the guy who was in college for, it felt like 8 years, supposed to be your leading quarterback, and for them to make it to the playoffs, go 10-7, and play really well. Yeah, I was dead wrong on that. And let me say this, my Chargers.
I was just about to say that, Chargers.
Boy, my Chargers. Again, I thought he would get Coach of the Year. Clearly, he did not get Coach of the Year. Wasn't even nominated. I thought he should have been nominated. But phenomenal job by Jim Harbaugh. Again, wherever he goes, he wins. And he's unlocked some things. He unlocked some toughness with the Chargers. I know they went out sad in the first round of the playoffs. But I have, again, we'll talk about next season, next segment. But I have all the confidence in the world that this team is ascending and will give the Kansas City Chiefs some problems if they're able to reload. Again, they were in cap hell. If they're able to reload, get some wideouts, get some weapons for Justin Herbert, and continue to get a little bit better under Jim Harbaugh, they're going to be a thorn in the Kansas City Chiefs side for years. So the Chargers are the one that I could say, boom, I hit that. And I'm gonna say what's disappointing is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Remember in the beginning of the season, they were like 8-2, and we thought, oh, they found something. Justin Fields is benched, but still Russell Wilson's tossing it around the yard. We got Mr. ISS, Carl Pickens making plays, and they just absolutely imploded. Lost their last 4 games. Let me ask you this, Barrett. Is it time for Mikey T? Like, I know he's a great head coach, but at some point, when you go so many years without winning a Super Bowl and having around an 8-8, 9-8, 10-7 record, is it best for everyone to move on?
It's getting to that point now. I think the message is either become stale or it's gone to that team. You know what I'm saying? I think they're at a point right now where I don't know if Coach Tomlin, and this is only be the 3rd coach ever. If they do replace him, it'll be, the 4th coach that they've ever had on this team. The 4th coach. BC was the 3rd. Tomlin will be 3rd. It'll be the 4th coach. We're talking about years and years and years of football with only 3 head coaches and going to their 4th. So they're going to be pretty, they don't want to do it, but they're going to be pretty, pushed it to a point where they got to make a decision. That message may be gone right now. You know what I mean? He might not have the same juice that he used to have. Because what I saw on the sideline was definitely not the same Tomlin that I saw before. But, I watched that Ravens game, and just looking the way Tomlin was, it was like he was almost defeated before the game even started. You know what I mean? The demeanor wasn't there. You got, your best receiver acting like a baby, and you can't say nothing to him. Or he'll go cry in a corner or something. You can't have a team like that. And I really think, another team that we need to, talk about came out hot. Hot in the beginning of the year was New Orleans Saints. I just knew they were going to be a baller.
Yeah, that lasted for 2 games.
Right. What they scored like 80, almost 90 points the first 2 games.
For 2 freaking games. All right, coming up next. We're going to talk about next season, what we expect from next season, the futures of next season, what we think free agency is going to be like, what we think the draft is going to be like for all these teams. So we're going to have our super early predictions on next year and even the Super Bowl winner for next year. All right, this is the Sunday Spread. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Sunday Spread, final segment of the season. Sean Bell, Barrett Brooks, Kenny Henderson, Dylan Mitchell, Devin Caney out over at the Eagles facility as we speak. Let's talk about the future. All right, we're going to talk about the future of everything, but let's start with the future of the Eagles. All right, They want to get their own dynasty going. They got to go back-to-back. But they can't go back-to-back unless they make the right signings. They got a couple guys that they need to get under their wing. Zach Bond, right? All-pro linebacker. He's up for a contract, and he's going to want to get paid because this is his first payday. Mekhi Boston, the right guard, same thing. He's up for a payday, his first real payday. He's going to want to get paid among some other things. I believe Milton Williams and some other players. What's the priority here for the Eagles, Barrett Brooks?
The priority is you got to sign Zach Bond. You have to sign him back. In fact, this city would go nuts. You talking about this parade, the parade will be second only to if they sign Zach Bond. I mean, they would have a parade for Zach Bond, man. We're talking about a guy that fits into, Vic Fangio's system. He was handpicked by Vic Fangio. He turned this kid into an all-pro. So, yeah, they've got to sign him back. Now, they don't traditionally sign linebackers for a lot of money. They think they can just plug and play, but this may be the exception. They might burn the city down if they don't we let him go, just like we let TJ Edwards go, and we don't sign this kid, and he's not going to be looking for a hometown discount either. He's not going to give it to him. He wants all the money, but I still think it's the cheapest way for them to go in free agency and sign him, a linebacker, as opposed to going out there, even signing Sweat. Sweat's going to command probably upwards of $70, $80 million.
After that,
and that's being, on the low end. And then you got to talk about a guy like Milton Williams. Milton Williams is going to probably earn about 40 to 50. He's did enough. So there's a lot of money going to be paid to these defensive guys on the defensive side of the ball. But he's just one guy that the Eagles have to sign. They got to bite the bullet, and the salary cap goes up this year. They're going to have to bite the bullet and sign this guy. He's that good, and he does that much for the Vic Fangio's defense.
Yeah, again, the Eagles normally don't pay linebackers, but you're going to have to pay this one some real freaking money. The 49ers, again, my squad, how I'm looking at them, again, they for one, they just got to get healthy. If they're healthy, they're back to being a playoff team, but some of the things that they're looking to do, to me, is, one, trade Deebo Samuels. They're allowing him to look at trade partners, and the reason I think they're allowing him to look at trade partners is because they're going to ask him to take a pay cut. Yep. If you don't take a pay cut, then we'll allow you to, because to me, that's normally what that means. When they allow you to look for a trade partner. Like, all right, you're going to take this pay cut, or we're going to get you up on out of here. And if you're not willing to take a pay cut, all right, go see what you can get out there. And so I think that's what's going to happen with him. Again, I think his market's going to be down because Deebo, I love Deebo when he's healthy and when he's in shape and when he's going, but he has a lot of years and a lot of games where he's not healthy, where he's not in shape, where he's not doing those proper things. You saw the video of him wearing an A.J. Brown jersey with a flat-out gut.
Bro, he looked like a 3 technique, bro.
Yeah, so, again, I'm looking at Deebo. I think the 49ers, just like the Philadelphia Eagles, are going to go after Myles Garrett. I think Myles Garrett is the biggest fish in the sea that everybody wants to get, but it's going to cost a haul. The Philadelphia Eagles right now have the cap space to sign him. Again, a lot of their great players are under rookie contracts. So he's been linked to the Eagles. He's been linked to the Washington Commanders, but I'm sure every team is looking into Myles Garrett. When you look at Myles Garrett, Barrett Brooks, what are one or two teams that you think has the possibility of really landing Myles?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, the Commanders, they have so much money under the cap, and that along with, them having a rookie quarterback just makes for a perfect landing spot for them. Their defense is, what they lacked. Offensively, they can score, but if they were able to get him and they get a trade, we get another, good wide receiver, a number one wide receiver, because they don't have a number one wide receiver. I think they need a number one wide receiver in order for them to, have a complete offense. I'm gonna tell you the truth, man. Myles Garrett goes there. It's gonna be a problem for not just the Eagles in our division, but it's gonna be a problem for the NFC. Period. I think second would be the Eagles. How we would find a way to fit him under the cap and move some stuff around, to bring him in. Talking about complete. This team would be complete. It'd be unstoppable. With Myles Garrett on one side, Nolan Smith on the other side. Come on now. Nolan Smith turned himself into a monster these last, the last half of the season. He finally figured out how to take pass rushing moves and really, combine those pass rushing move with the speed. I mean, the young man ran a 4.4, 4.3 at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
Straight speed. Now he's aggressive, running through people. I mean, he is decapitating people when they pull and try to kick him out. He's killing these centers. These guards trying to pull and hit him. Yeah. So, him on one side and Miles on the other side. And he's one of the weirdest cats you ever meet, man. Not weird, but like he's literally a dinosaur junkie. He loves dinosaurs. He talk to you about Tyrannosaurus Rexes all the time. I call college football on the weekend. He's one of those guys that love to talk about dinosaurs and stuff like that, man. But talking about a freak of nature.
Still a kid at heart. Still a kid at heart.
Right.
For me, I look at, because Miles made it clear he wants to go somewhere with the quarterback. I've done the Cleveland Brown thing where we had everything but a quarterback. I'm not doing that again. You said the Commanders. I'm looking at the Commanders. I'm also looking at the Houston Texans, trying to make a move again. You talk about a young, really good quarterback. Send him to Texans. Getting into with the Texans and the AFC South, where everyone stinks. You get Myles Garrett. C.J. Stroud continues to get better. You can dominate that division and dominate and do some things in the AFC if you get Myles Garrett paired with C.J. Stroud. The Detroit Lions is the other team with Aiden Hutchinson getting hurt. Kenny mentioned it in the chat. Dylan mentioned it in the chat. If he goes to Detroit, the team struggling on defense, Aiden Hutchinson gets healthy, they get Myles Garrett. That's going to be a freaking problem to deal with for a lot of years also. So I think those are some of the teams that you can watch out for Myles Garrett to be on. With that said, what's the surprise team? Looking to 2026. If there's a team that you could pick out right now that may be the surprise team to make a jump, to compete with the Eagles, compete with the Chiefs, compete with the big dogs, what surprise team would you throw out there?
I think the only surprise would probably be the Commanders. The biggest surprise would be the Commanders. They're the real deal. They're the real deal. You always talk about your sophomore slump with your quarterback, but Jaden Daniels, he's a complete player. Now, will he be able to come out? Because now defensive coordinators have a year's worth of film on them, and they get paid millions of dollars to stop quarterbacks like that. Go down to Texas, ask them, to the Texans. Same thing would happen with him. I think, the Commanders will probably be that team that you look for to be a huge, huge, huge surprise to a lot of people. So I'm gonna say the Commanders.
I'm gonna go to Chicago Bears. I'm gonna say we were one season too late. I think Ben Johnson goes over there. Now, being a coordinator and being an overall head coach is two totally different stories, right? Like, you can have a tough time being a legit head coach if you have to demand so many things and only pay attention to the offense. But I do think the Bears just had the overall raw talent. I just think they had bad coaching, right? So if they shore up their line, which their offensive line was poor, if they shore up their offensive line alone and Ben Johnson's able to do some creative things to negate having an offensive line that's not great, I think the Chicago Bears will be that team that you saw early in the season that was 4-2, right? And I'm not saying they're going to jump up to Eagles category, but jump up to a team that's 11-6 in the playoffs, making some noise and being a little bit of problem. I can see them making that big time jump. So I think that's the surprise team. Is there any team that you think is going to fall off? Any team that you look at this year and you think, that team ain't going to be no good next year?
I'm thinking Minnesota. I think Minnesota's going to fall a lot because they got to go through the bumps and bruises of having a rookie. And, McCarthy probably he'll be a rookie coach. What's the name? I think it is McCarthy, right?
J.J. McCarthy, yeah.
McCarthy, he's got to go through and he's going to be a rookie again. So, I think they, go through the bumps and bruises of bringing him back. And they got kind of a couple of free agencies, free agent guys also they got to bring into the fold. So at this point, I don't know if they'll have enough to be competitive the way they were. Although their offensive line is great. They got a really, really good offensive line. Having your young quarterback back there, he's going to take you through a lot of bumps and bruises. Another team I think is going to fall off is the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, they already fallen.
Right.
They just gonna continue to fall. Yeah, and I'm with you on Minnesota. I'm just not a believer in JJ. McCarthy, and even if he does become good, I don't think he's going to be good immediately like Bo Nix was. With that said, Super Bowl 2026. Pick an early winner. The Eagles are obviously the favorite, plus 650. Then it's the Ravens, 7-1. Bills, plus 750. Lions, plus 800. Then 49ers, 14-1. Who do you got for the Super Bowl next year?
I still think it's going to be the Eagles. But I think it's going to be Eagles, either Eagles, Raiders. Eagles, Ravens, or Eagles, Bills. One of the two. But I think the Bills are going to go out and get him some more weapons on the outside. And once they do that, he'll be a complete, team again as far as a quarterback. Shore up some things on that defense, and we know, that they'll be back. They'll be good on the defensive side of the ball, good coordinator, head coach coordinator, defensive coordinator. So I think they'll get the defense back. But I think it'll either be the Eagles, Ravens in the Super Bowl, or the Eagles and the Bills in the Super Bowl.
The only worry I have with the Eagles is if Saquon Barkley gets the Christian McCaffrey. I had so many carries, did so many things this year. This year might be a banged-up year. And if that happens to the Eagles, I don't think they'll still be a good team. I don't think they'll be enough to get back to the Super Bowl. That's my only concern with them. And again, they relatively had great health this year, as opposed to the Niners, the Detroit Lions, the teams that were supposed to be their real contenders, didn't have good health. So I like the Bengals. This is a surprise one. Kenny mentioned it, and I actually sort of agree. I like the Bengals to sort of be a surprise team. I think them and the Bills are my early AFC championship game. And I think Cincinnati, if they show up their defense, they'll do anything on that defense, they're going to be a frequent problem. Detroit Lions, I think, are the fall-off team for me. I think they're going to take a huge step back. The Eagles know when they lost both of their coordinators 2 years ago after going to the Super Bowl. You lose Aaron Glenn, you lose Ben Johnson, and now you got to find new identities. Now you got to find a new voice, and now a ton of problems occur because you don't have that. It may take you a year or two to adjust to being the team that you were before those coordinators left. Listen, that has been the Sunday Spread. Season in the books. The 2024/2025 season in the books. Barrett, big dog, I appreciate you as always. Looking forward to doing this with you again next year. Devin Caney, who's out in the practice facility, looking forward to doing it with her again. It was a joy. Kenny Henderson, Dylan Mitchell, y'all have been great. I appreciate all the hard work that y'all have put in on the Sunday Spread. I thank you guys. Love you guys. Again, everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And stay tuned for next season. Still a lot more fun to be had because we're just fun-loving people. It's been the Sunday Spread presented by BetMGM.